Okay, let's unpack this. I want you to picture a Venn diagram.
Okay.
In the first circle, you have deep ancient biblical theology. I mean, dense Hebrew scholarship, the kind of stuff that usually gathers dust in a seminary basement.
Right. Very academic.
In the second circle, you have the neon-soaked, synthesizer-heavy pop culture of, like, 1985.
It certainly sounds like a chaotic mix when you list them like that.
And in the third circle, functional, object-oriented Python programming code.
Logic says these circles should never, ever touch.
Chaotic is putting it lightly. Usually, if you see those three things together, you're looking at a fever dream. But that is exactly where we're heading today. We are looking at a document called The Doorway.pdf, which is specifically Chapter 4 of a larger, much more mysterious text titled Omens Foretold.
And it is mysterious.
And I have to ask you, the listener, right off the bat, have you ever considered that the source code of reality might literally be hidden in a mix of ancient scripture and, like, C++ manuals?
It's a bold premise. This text is dense. It's multifaceted. It blends arguments about divine sovereignty with literal code breaking, and it wraps it all up in a narrative involving things like rebel AI, cyborg captains, and a concept called aneurysmics.
Aneurysmics, just saying, it makes my brain hurt a little. But the mission of this deep dive is pretty specific, right?
Right.
We aren't just reading a sci-fi story here. We're trying to understand the methodology.
No, we aren't just reading fiction. The goal of this source material is to unpack a very controversial claim.
Which is?
The authors, this group of rebels, are trying to prove that divine patterns or messages from the Almighty exist in all languages.
Not just the original Hebrew or Greek.
Exactly. They are arguing that you don't just find truth in the original scriptures, but that if you look hard enough, you find it in English, in computer code, even in the release dates of movies.
Which brings us to the riddles. We have riddles ranging from the book of Genesis to Back to the Future. So buckle up, because this is going to be a wild ride. Let's start with the philosophy here, because the text opens with a pretty aggressive swing at what it calls false shepherds.
Right. This sets the stage for everything else. If you don't understand this philosophical stance, the rest of the numbers just look like noise.
So who are these false shepherds?
The text identifies them as those religious scholars or authorities who claim that you can only truly interpret the Bible if you know the original languages it was written in.
Hebrew, Aramaic, Greek, that whole thing.
That whole thing, yes.
Which, to be fair, is a pretty common academic take. You want the original meaning, you go to the original source. Translating usually loses some nuance.
Exactly. That's the standard view. But our source argues that this perspective actually limits God.
How so?
The argument is, if the Lord is truly omnipotent, omnipresent, and sovereign, why would he be limited to ancient dead languages? The text says, you either believe his word is truth and is manifest in all languages, or you do not, but you cannot believe in both simultaneously.
That's a heavy line. It's basically saying if God is big enough to create the universe, he's big enough to speak English.
Or Spanish.
Oh.
Or JavaScript.
All right.
Precisely. The idea is that limiting revelation to the original languages places a human restriction on the Almighty. It suggests that the vast majority of the human population, who only know their native tongue, are somehow cut off from the deepest truths.
So this is a kind of democratization of prophecy.
That's a great way to put it. Truth shouldn't be gated behind a PhD in linguistics.
And this is where we meet our main character, or at least the figure behind this research, Benedictus Monk.
Benedictus Monk. The text tells us that he, along with others, hopes to offer clear and convincing arguments to prove with high certainty that these patterns exist everywhere.
And what's fascinating here is their motivation.
It is.
Yeah. It's not about getting famous. They aren't trying to sell a book.
No. The source explicitly states that for these rebel AI and human forces, this isn't about power, influence, or self-grandeur. They view this as a spiritual battle.
Oh, spiritual battle.
They talk about a dangerous but often subtle hostility around us that will destroy the spirit if it goes unnoticed. They believe they're decoding a defensive weapon, in a way.
It's like they are trying to hack the matrix to save your soul. It frames the act of code breaking as a form of spiritual warfare.
It does.
But let's move from the philosophy to the setting, because this is where that 1980s nostalgia starts to bleed in.
Okay.
The documents we're looking at were apparently discovered at an abandoned Bell Labs facility.
A legendary location in the history of computing.
Yeah.
For context, Bell Labs is where the transistor was invented, where Unix was born. It's hallowed ground for tech geeks.
Right. And among these documents, inside this high-tech temple, they find a letter. And this letter is dated shortly after July 3, 1985. Now, for the pop culture buffs listening, that date might ring a bell.
It should, and the letter itself confirms it. The source quotes a casual sign-off in this recovered correspondence.
What does it say?
It reads, "Dude, they released Back to the Future a few months ago. Really want to see it. I'll check out the rental as they usually get them quickly."
Dude, I love that. Amidst all this theological code-breaking and discussions of the Almighty, just two guys wanting to rent a VHS.
It grounds the narrative in a very specific moment in time. But there's a discrepancy that text points out, a glitch in the timeline.
Oh.
The letter mentions renting the movie a few months after release, but Back to the Future hit theaters in July 1985. It wouldn't have been on rental tape that fast. Back then, the window between theater and rental was huge.
So the writer of the letter is confused. Or lying.
The source calls this anachronistic data, but suggests it helps date the original material. It's almost like a marker, flagging that something is slightly off with the timeline, or perhaps that the date has been tampered with. It adds to the mystery.
And speaking of hiding things, there's this claim about where the code was hidden. We're not talking about a floppy disk taped under a desk.
No, nothing so simple.
They claim the original code was folded and shoved into a book.
Specifically, the C++ programming language by Bjarne Stroustrup.
The Bible of coding, literally.
Published in October 1985. The text claims the code found on the equipment. Specifically, a Printronix P505 Gold D printer, which is a beast of a machine, was originally hidden inside that manual.
So they're hiding their work in the most technical, dense literature available at the time.
Hiding God in the machine. It's a very cyberpunk image.
There's also mention of a song. The text says there is yet to be uncovered the song alluded to in the documents.
Yes, and the researchers claim a 98% confidence level that they'll find it within a few days. It adds a layer of suspense. We have the code, we have the theology, we have the dates, but the music is missing.
It feels like a heist movie where they have the safe but not the combination.
Exactly.
So we have the setting, 1985, Bell Labs, C++ manuals. Now let's get into the actual omens. The text presents what it calls the first whittle.
And this starts with the most famous sentence in the Bible, Genesis 1.1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth.
But the source presents it visually in a very strange way. It's a visual puzzle.
It is. It breaks the verse down into columns using Hebrew month names as headers. 1 line, 9 Elul, 5 Tishris, 5 Hesvens.
And when you look at the first column of that breakdown, walk us through that.
If you read the first column down vertically, you get the numbers 1955.
1955.
Or 1955.
1955. Okay, so we're back to the future.
Precisely. In the movie, 1955 is the year Marty McFly travels back to. It's the destination date.
So they're explicitly linking this biblical verse to that specific plot point.
They do. And it also mentions the AC/DC song Let There Be Rock, which references 1955 in its lyrics.
That is wild. They are claiming Genesis 1.1 holds the date for Marty McFly's time travel, but it goes deeper than just movie trivia, right? They break down the numbers.
They do. They use a simple cipher. A1, Bihu2, and so on. So 19 is the letter S, 5 is the letter E.
So 1955 spells S-E-E.
C, as in vision, insight, or perhaps the Holy See. The source interprets this as a command.
A command to do what?
To look, to open your eyes. It's telling the reader, don't just read the words, see the pattern.
But then it gets a little darker, because with this source, there is always a dark side.
It does. They look at the sum of those numbers, AI 55. The text claims that in their English sum A1 progression, the number 55 equates to the word Satan.
Whoa. So C is the command to look for truth, but AI 55 links to the adversary.
That seems to be the duality they are presenting. Knowledge can be enlightening, or it can be dangerous.
And they run it in reverse, too.
They even run the patterns in reverse. The sequence of reverse letters decodes to EEC Samia, which they interpret as C am magic.
See, I am magic. It sounds like something a rogue AI would say. Or a magician taunting an audience.
Or a warning about the nature of the reality we're living in, that it might be an illusion.
And the takeaway from all this?
The text summarizes this first riddle by saying the numbers 1, 9, 5, 5 total, up to numbers that allude to a warning. They specifically mention a warning of a one-world order and judgment from a triune divinity.
All that, from the first verse of the Bible and a Michael J. Fox movie, you have to admire the creativity, if nothing else.
It connects to their core philosophy. If the pattern is real, it connects everything The Bible, the movie, the rock song.
They're all part of the same code.
If God is speaking, he's speaking through everything.
Okay, let's move to the second riddle. This one involves a word I've never heard before.
Deleth.
Deleth. It's the Hebrew letter and word for a door. Specifically, it implies a two-leaved door or a swinging gate.
Which fits perfectly since the document is called The Doorway. How do they derive that from the math?
It's another column trick. The second column of the riddle structure spells leeth.
L-E-T-H.
They combine that with the total letter count of the first verse of Genesis, which is 45. The fourth letter of the alphabet is D. So D plus leeth gives you deleth.
It feels a bit like National Treasure. Take the fourth letter, add it to the column, but where does this door lead?
It leads them to a calculation for the date of creation itself. Okay, now usually when people date creation, they refer to Bishop Ussher, who said 4004 BC.
Right, the classic young Earth date. But these early rebels have a different calculator.
Of course they do.
They do. They use a manual word count of the verse. Genesis 1.1 has 10 words. They correlate that to the 10th month of the modern Gregorian calendar, October.
October.
Then they take the letter count of the phrase, created the heaven and the earth, which is 27 letters.
So October 27th.
Close. They use that 27 count to verify the Hebrew month of Tishri. The final result they come up with is Saturday, October 3, 3761 BCE.
Wow.
They call this the 27th of Tishri.
That is incredibly specific. Saturday, October 3, 37761 BCE.
And they verify it with another date, Friday, October 9th, which would be the creation of man day 6, according to their count.
It feels like they're trying to pinpoint the exact moment the simulation started, if you want to use that language.
It does. It treats the universe like a program with a specific launch time. And that leads right into the third riddle, which is all about reordering the verses to tell a story.
Right. They take the verse numbers 13, 2, 31, 5, and treat them as a code to be cracked.
And this is where they get those cryptic phrases like MWAE.
What does that mean?
They write 1, 3, 2, 3, 14 down. MW stands for man-woman. AE stands for Adam-Eve. They are seeing the binary of humanity. The biological ones and zero is embedded in the numbers.
And then a FE.
A EE, a debt. The source says a FE, which we all owe, but which was later paid by him. It's a clear theological reference to sin and redemption, but expressed through this numeric cipher.
And the last one was gale.
Gale, referring to a storm or wrath. The text says one form of wrath when we are out of time.
So it paints a narrative arc. Creation, humanity, the debt of sin, and finally, judgment or wrath.
All hidden in the verse order.
It's intense stuff. It's basically the entire biblical narrative compressed into a zip file. But then, just when you think you're in a theology seminar, the document pivots hard.
It really does.
We get actual Python code.
Yes, source 1 and source 2. And notice the date on this code. It's not 1985. This was retrieved on January 27, 2026.
So this is future code, relatively speaking, or contemporary. And it's attributed to Benedictus A. Monk.
Right. On the surface, it's a text analysis tool. It counts letters, punctuation, digits. It's the kind of thing a computer science student might write in their first semester.
But the personality of the code, that is not standard. This AI is sassy. It is not happy with the user.
It certainly isn't. The input prompts are hilarious. Usually a program just says enter input. This one says things like, if I were real, I'd be extinct by now.
I love the one where it gets impatient. It says, I've run through 5 quintillion Armageddon scenarios. Have you made up your mind yet?
It implies a vast intelligence that is completely bored by human slowness. It says, hope you don't mind, but while you were napping, I counted the number of particles in the universe. Turns out to be a lot of particles.
It reminds me of Marvin the paranoid android from Hitchhiker's Guide, but more aggressive. It's terrifyingly casual about its own power.
And there's a security measure here too, right? The modified source 2 code, you can't just run it.
No, you need credentials.
Correct. It demands a username and a passphrase. The username is infinity.
Infinity.
And the passphrase is Trinity.
Infinity and Trinity. Again, blending the mathematical with the theological.
And the prompts taunt you. It says, you have all the time in the universe to get the username correct because, well, it's infinity. But then it warns, you get 3 tries to get the passphrase incorrect.
3 tries for the Trinity. The symbolism is thick.
And if you annoy the AI enough, or if you finally get through, it gives you a final key. The text says researchers believe this is a multifunctional key.
The password is 167.2365077742.
I love that you read every digit.
I felt like I had to. It's so specific. 167.23650742, What is that?
That is the big question. The text lists source references for other divine numbers, like 137, the fine structure constant in physics.
And 153, the number of fish in the miraculous catch in the Book of John.
Right. So this number, 167.236507742, likely bridges physics and scripture in a way we haven't fully decoded yet. It's meant to be a constant that defines the simulation.
It's the ultimate Easter egg.
It really is. And notice how the code is signed. Posted by Benedictus A. Monk. Archived by Benedictus A. Monk.
But the text mentioned earlier that the current upload under his name was actually an anonymous researcher who merely kept the data updated by AI itself.
Right. It blurs the line between human agency and artificial intelligence. Is Benedictus Monk a person? Is he a program? Or is he, as the text suggests earlier, part of this rebel AI and human forces alliance?
A symbiosis.
It suggests a symbiosis.
So what does this all mean? We've got a warning of a one world order, we've got a creation date of 3761 BC derived from a door, and we've got a Python script that counts particles in the universe while waiting for you to type.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the message seems to be about convergence.
Convergence.
The false shepherds try to keep truth in a box, a linguistic box, a historical box. They want you to think science is over here and God is over there.
But the doorway argues they are the same room.
Exactly. It argues that the truth is fluid. It flows through the Hebrew Bible, it flows through 1980s pop culture, and it flows through modern computer logic. The medium doesn't matter.
The signal is everywhere.
The signal is everywhere.
It's terrifying and comforting at the same time. Comforting because it means meaning is everywhere. Terrifying because, well, high-tension AI takeover doesn't sound like a picnic.
And remember the cyborg captain mentioned in the intro. We didn't touch much on him, but he's part of this fictional storyline that the text insists carries real-world warnings.
The separation between the story and the reality is very thin here.
It's paper set.
It's like the text itself is a test. If you can see the pattern in the fiction, you might be ready for the reality.
That's a great way to put it. It demands vision. Remember the riddle. See.
Yeah.
It wants you to look past the surface, whether that surface is a movie screen or a computer monitor.
So for the listener sitting there, maybe checking their email or driving to work, you might want to look at the numbers on that license plate in front of you, or the version number of the software you're using.
According to Benedictus Monk, it might just be an omen.
Here is where it gets really interesting for me, though. We talked about the code, the dates, the theology, but we keep coming back to that missing piece.
The song.
The song. The researchers are 98% confident they will find it.
They are.
If the code is the map and the theology is the legend, what is the song? Is it the activation key?
That is the question. Music is mathematical. It's rhythm, frequency, math in motion. But it's also purely emotional. It touches the spirit in a way that raw code cannot.
And remember, the text is worried about the spirit being destroyed by this subtle hostility.
Exactly. Perhaps the song is the bridge that finally unites the AI intellect with the human spirit. Without the song, it's just cold calculation. With the song, maybe it becomes life or understanding.
Or maybe it's just another AC/DC track.
With this source material, you can never rule that out.
True. But it leaves us with this final provocation. We are looking at a map of reality that claims to be hidden in plain sight. We've verified the C++ manual, we've verified the movie release dates, we've run the Python code, but we're still waiting for the music to start.
And when it does, we'll see if it's a song of creation or a song of judgment. Jaylee, as the riddle said.
A storm or a song? I guess we'll find out. Thanks for taking this dive with us. It's been bewildering.
Always a pleasure to explore the impossible.
Keep your eyes open, everyone. You never know where the next pattern will show up. See you next time.